As we talk about Jesus being our Genesis, I think there's so many things in our life that kind of hold us back, like fear. And most of the time, I think the real term is like 90% of what we're afraid of doesn't even come true. It's just stuff we call them vain imaginations and things that we build on top of each other and just let them build and fester, worry about, lose sleep over, and then it never happens.
Yep.
10% of the things that we worry about actually happen. And so it's a real life staller for so many people. Would you tell us about a moment that fear entered in and how you overcame it?
Yeah, and hearing you speak, I'm reminded of Seneca, who was a Stoic philosopher during the time of Jesus. And what he says is one of his most famous quotes is really poignant towards my experience with fear in my life. And it is, we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality.
Oh, wow.
I say this to myself and my students all the time, and I do it in a hypocritic fashion. I still struggle with fear. But I state, think for a moment, what's the rudest thing that anyone's ever said to you? And I'll give students, a few minutes to think about that. And then I ask, what's the rudest thing you've ever said to yourself? And there's no comparison. The things we allow ourselves to say to ourselves are barbaric. They're just outright rotten, and they're a textbook lie. And I would be incorrect to tell you that I am on the other side of that. It's still something I struggle with daily. I went through a lot of trauma as a child with my parents' divorce and things of that nature, affiliated with just a really messy divorce. And basically, the fear that was entrenched in me from that at young age was, if your own mother can't love you, who can? And of course, the lie that is perpetuated is that the answer is no one. No one can love you. I would say that's probably the greatest fear of my life. And I overcompensate like so many men do. I work 80 hours instead of 70 hours. I invest this much. I do this, I do that. I overcompensate in all areas of my life to try and combat against that lie. And it wasn't until my early 30s, maybe a little closer to mid 30s, that I finally understood what the gospel was all about. And that no matter how grave my sin is, it's forgiven if I turn my life over to Jesus. And I remember breaking down at my rock bottom right after a divorce and saying, I've tried it my way. I've tried it my way and it doesn't work.
Hmm.
And I'm not going to be ignorant and stubborn and continue trying just yet another way to see if it will work, because I know that it won't. And so in that moment in time, I handed my life over to Christ and I said, let's do it your way. Let's do it your way. And as I mentioned before, I still catch myself walking down that path, and I have to turn around and recognize the commitment that I've made to Jesus to do it his way. And I believe that he waits patiently for me. And I've said that I struggle with fear even today. It's a lifelong struggle. But that one moment in my life on turning my life over to Jesus was the biggest anti towards pain for all the trouble fear had caused me my entire life.
Wow. That's, hmm.